When you decide you want to start your own business, there are some basic things you need in terms of IT. So in this video, I'm going to take you through very quickly the basics of how you set up the perfect mini IT infrastructure for your startup business. And we are going to go through this really quickly because this is basically just a glorified shopping list, and everything you need to know I'm going to put in the description of this video. Very quickly, we're going to need a domain name, an email service, somewhere to keep your files, a laptop, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, and that's it. So let's do it. So we have to start somewhere, and we're going to start with hardware, and you will need a laptop. If you happen to be leaving your job in order to become self-employed and start your business, one trick that works really well is to ask your employee to gift you your laptop or sell you your work laptop. This is a really good way to get a laptop that's good enough for your business, either for free or for ideally not more than about £200. So if your employer is going to sell it to you, I wouldn't expect to see them charge you more than £100. If you do need to buy a laptop, you should budget around £600 plus VAT. The best way that I've found to get a laptop for a startup business is to buy a refurbished unit from the Dell Outlet store. These units oftentimes are just cancelled orders, or units have been sent out and come straight back as returns, but the discounts you get are really deep, and Dell's customer service is always pretty good. So details again will be in the description, but you should buy a laptop that has an Intel i5 processor. It must run Windows 11 Pro, and I'll explain why in a minute. It needs to have 16 gigabytes of RAM, and it needs to have an SSD. Nearly all laptops nowadays do come with an SSD of at least 256 gigabytes in size, but 512 gigabytes is fine. Oftentimes you'll find the listing only gives you 8 gigabytes of RAM, so you need to ask Dell to upgrade it. If you can't get Dell to ship it to you with 16 gigs of RAM, it's normally easy enough to get them upgraded by your local computer repair shop for about £100. So it's absolutely critical that your laptop is encrypted, and this is the #1 place where non-technology people go wrong when they're getting a laptop for work. What encrypted means, it means the data on the device is scrambled, such that if your laptop gets stolen, the person who nicked it can't read it. This is absolutely critical these days, because if your laptop does get stolen and it's unencrypted, if it's for business use, you will have to report that to the Information Commissioner's Office, or ICO, as a breach, and you will be at a minimum obliged to tell all your customers that you lost all of your data. You don't want this, especially not if you're trying to build your reputation up as a new business. If you buy a Pro version of Windows, the encryption is more manageable compared to a Home version. Now this gets a bit complicated, but if you buy a laptop from John Lewis or Amazon or Currys, i.e. a retail laptop, that laptop will only come with Windows 11 Home. It's very kind of murky because Windows 11 Home devices can be encrypted, but in my experience it's less of a headache to buy a Pro version. Besides, when the business grows, you'll want all the laptops in your fleet running Pro versions, because if you've got 10, 20 employees, you definitely don't want to be running Windows Home licenses. In terms of antivirus, no matter how hard they try and sell you on it, do not buy the retail antivirus, i.e. the types of antivirus that you get in a box at Currys or PC World. Windows already has an antivirus that is perfectly adequate to the task built in. Don't be sucked in. Norton or McAfee or any other product like that is simply not worth the money. You do not need to buy a third-party retail antivirus. In terms of mobile devices, you should just use whatever phone you use personally. You don't need a special phone for work. When you start to employ people, that gets a little bit nuanced, but for now, for you, and if you're doing it with a co-founder, you don't need anything special about your phone. You will need a domain name for your business, so kind of like an example.com or hellopatisserie.co.uk, and that should be bought from GoDaddy. There are loads of other places that will sell you a domain name. I trust GoDaddy, and if you're asking me for a recommendation without knowing you, I will just say, get it there. And even if you don't buy from GoDaddy, do not buy any other email or Microsoft 365 services from here. Just buy the domain name, which should only cost you like £10 a year. Make sure that the password you use for your GoDaddy account is very long and very secure. Print that password out, and in an ideal world, put it in a fireproof safe at home. If someone gets hold of your domain login information and hijacks your domain, they can hijack your entire business. Your domain name is literally your crown jewels. You need to own it. It needs to have a secure password, and if you ever need it in a hurry, you need to know where it is. In my experience, asking a customer to print a piece of paper out and then wrap it in a multi-kilogram size steel box that sits somewhere in your house means it doesn't get lost. Some new businesses feel they need to make a choice between Google Apps and Microsoft 365. For a very small business, this isn't really a choice. In order to do commerce with the other humans, at some point you will need Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Even if you think you can get away with using Google Docs and Google Sheets, that will get frustrating and overwhelming very quickly. The collective term for Google Apps and Microsoft 365 is groupware, and most businesses will choose one groupware product to sit at the center of their IT infrastructure as their business grows. Very small businesses should always choose Microsoft 365 as a groupware solution because of this need to have Office apps like Word and Excel. There is no point buying two subscriptions, one with Google and one with Microsoft. You might as well chuck everything in with Microsoft, and guess what? That's why they price it that way. As a business, it is very important that you buy business versions of the Microsoft 365 subscriptions. I've never known any newbie to this not get confused, but then Microsoft having confusing licensing for its products is a tradition as old as the IT industry itself. Microsoft operates two versions of Microsoft 365, one for home and one for business. Now, I have a rich tradition of not giving advice with a capital A around Microsoft licensing, but for commercial use, you strictly speaking need to use the business licenses, i.e. the home licenses should not really be used for running a business. However, for a startup, there's a more important thing here in that the business licenses come with an email service and file storage service, and the home licenses do not. You will need this. In order for you to have your email come through to your business domain, e.g. example.com or hellopatisserie.co.uk, you need an email service. Do not under any circumstances use an email service provided by a web hosting company for your professional business. I appreciate I haven't got to web hosting yet. We're going to get to it. The services that a web hosting company will push on you are junk and exist purely to add an additional revenue stream for that web hosting company. You need to have your email service for a tier 1 email provider. There are practically only two tier 1 email providers, Microsoft and Google. As you're going to be choosing Microsoft 365 as your groupware solution, your email provider will also be Microsoft. To tie that back, that means you need a business version of Microsoft 365, not a home version, because the home versions do not come with an email service. The home versions also do not come with a file storage service, so in the business versions of Microsoft 365, you get SharePoint and OneDrive, which is where your business will store its files. The other place where people get confused on Microsoft 365 subscriptions is that you need to have a standard license. There are a number of different licenses, basic and standard being the normal two, and there's ones more expensive than standard you as a small business do not need to think about. The basic licenses do not come with the Office applications. You do not get Word, Excel, PowerPoint and Outlook, so you need to have standard. So you need to go out there and buy Microsoft 365 Business Standard. And I didn't put in the script how much the cost of that is because I'm ad-libbing at this point. That will cost you £10.30 plus VAT per month on a 12-month commitment. No one makes any margin on Microsoft 365 subscriptions. It doesn't really matter where you buy it from. My recommendation is to buy it direct from Microsoft themselves. Now, I mentioned web hosting, and this is starting to stray into marketing, but there are a bunch of ways you can do this. You can use Wix or Squarespace as a self-service website and hosting builder. WordPress is now a slightly more old hat version of this, but you likely would have heard of WordPress, or you can hire an agency to build your website. But if you are a very new business, I would spend the least amount of possible on your website until you've worked out where your market access strategy will be. If you're going to need to basically advertise purely through TikTok, you probably don't need a website, or you need a very simple funnel-based website. And it's really easy to go, I have a new business, I'm going to go and get a website, and get sucked into spending thousands of pounds with an agency, when all you really need to do is just throw something up there to validate the business exists. Don't go overboard in building a website at this stage. Do all the other infrastructure stuff we've done in this video, but the website needs to be much more considered, but you should only really consider it when you've had a good amount of time to decide what marketing strategy for you will get you down the road of finding product market fit in the most efficient way. Anyway, don't use your website provider's email service even if they beg you to do it. Now, I appreciate we've gone through that quite quickly, but as I say, there's a summary in the description of this video. There's a checklist to make sure you've got everything you need. If you follow this specification I've been through here, you can get very, very good IT infrastructure for your small business without overspending, and you'll have a baseline implementation that you can build on when your business starts to grow, and you'll be able to build on it in a way that means you're not having to throw anything away and start again. So let me tell you a secret. I have something called the VIP program, or the Very Important Founder program. There's a link in my bio where you can go and sign up. And when you do, you get access to free training, ebooks, checklists, exclusive content, all manner of resources that help you as a non-technology founder start and grow your technology business. Why don't you nip over to my bio, follow the link, sign up, and I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.